Ladies and gentlemen, can you afford to live in your state? Maybe you think you can. Maybe you know that you can't. Every year, the out of reach high cost of housing report is released in July. That new report is here. I'm going to focus on 4 states in particular, and Eric will put the link in the chat so you can see more of this information about your own area here. But this is what it looks like. It is the National Low Income Housing Coalition Out of Reach report. This is the report for 2024. And I just want to show you, this report will tell you how much you need to make an hourly wage to live in a 2-bedroom rental according to your state. We will hover over a few. California is number 1. It is the highest housing wage. You need to make $47.38 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental in California. All right. We're not going to hover over the other ones that I'm going to go into detail with because I have screenshots of those. But there's a couple of other ones that you may kind of be surprised by. Texas, for example, is ranked 23rd highest housing wage. You need to make $27.88 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental in Texas. Now, it'll also tell you minimum wage. If you make minimum wage in Texas, you need to work 154 hours a week to afford a 2-bedroom rental home. There's a couple of other ones I want to hover over before we get to the detailed states. Another one that I want to bring to your attention is Arizona. Arizona is 14th. You need to make $32.70 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental home in Arizona. Now, what's interesting about this is it's easy to look at this map and to say, well, all of the expensive states are going to be the blue states. Not necessarily. Arizona, are we calling Arizona purple now? Is that what we're doing? Is it purple? Okay, whatever. But it was red before the Biden election. I think it will eventually turn back red. But Arizona, again, that's another example of a state that's not a Democrat state. It's not a blue state. It's still in the top 20. Another one I want to hover over is Maryland. Where did we go? Maryland's always hard to get to because it's like right in the cut. Maryland. Maryland is 9th. It's in the top 10. You'll have to make $36.70 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental in the state of Maryland. Florida is one of the other ones, so I want to get to that one. Some of the lower costing states, Missouri, where you need to make $20.83 an hour. Someone mentioned Louisiana in the chat. I'll hover over that one really quick. It's 33rd. You need to make $22.11 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental, Louisiana. Another one I want to skim over is Colorado. Pay attention to what's happening in Colorado, right? So Colorado is ranked 8th. You have to make $37.47 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental in Colorado. Why has Colorado become so much more expensive? What has happened to Colorado over the years? You've got to pay attention to what's happening, folks, because I feel like as Biden is telling you that the economy is doing great, this report is going to show you that that is not the case. And I talk about the housing situation. I talk about this a lot because if this is not fixed, something is going to happen. And we'll do one more. Let's go to Michigan. Michigan, 31st. You need to make $23.16 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom in Michigan. Eric, when you get a chance, you can put the link to this in the chat and they can check out their own. Now we're going to go on to salaries. And this is the part that I think is going to stun some people. This is the income that an individual needs to live comfortably in the United States. Note the word comfortably, not poor, not broke, not struggling. Let's go on. Soccer popper, we're going to get to the cities in just a second. We're going to get there. Okay. Here's the salaries to live comfortable in that state. This is wild, fam. So the highest salaries are dark brown. The lowest salary is a pale yellow. So peep this, fam. Washington State, you need to make over 106K. California, 114K. Arizona, 97K. Remember the word comfortable. Not struggling. Okay, not struggle. Let's hop around. Texas, $87,000 a year. Kansas, $85,000 a year. Isn't this insane? North Dakota, $81,000 a year. Of course, we're going to hop over to the darker ones here. New York, 112K. Massachusetts, 116K. And I live here and I can tell you that's about right. That is about right, fam. Maine, 92K. Part of the problem that you run into with Maine is that there aren't a lot of high paying jobs in Maine. That's part of the problem you're going to run into there, especially if you're not in Portland. Also, Pennsylvania, 91,000. North Carolina, 90,000. I was looking up homes for someone. I looked up homes in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's insane how much a house costs in Raleigh, North Carolina now. This used to be the cheaper place to move to, fam. People used to move from New York to North Carolina and to Florida. Florida, $93,000. Georgia, $97,000. South Carolina, $88,000. The lowest is West Virginia, which is $79,000 a year. That's the lowest. So for all the people who live in the United States that are making like $40,000, $50,000 a year, you are not making enough to live in the United States. I am sorry, Natalie. I hear you, fam. This is the thing that people need to see these numbers. People need to see this. And this is how you push back on the politicians that tell you Joe Biden's done all these great things and Guys, fam, this has not changed. This has not, decreased. This has increased over the years. This is why you're not getting ahead. Hawaii, I forgot, sorry, 114K. Now, let's go to the metropolitan areas. We're looking at 4 states in particular, the highest and one of the low territories. So first, we're going to go to California, because what I think you're going to find interesting, even though California says you need to make $47.38 an hour, it turns out that when you look at the most expensive areas, you need to make more than that. So let's pop down here. The most expensive areas, which is circled in red, Santa Cruz, Watsonville, MSA, you need to make $77.96 an hour. $77.96 an hour in Santa Cruz. Let's go on. San Francisco, $64.60. San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, $60.23 an hour. That's Ro Khanna's area, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that Ro Khanna's area? You see this? Santa Maria, Santa Barbara, $57.58. And Salinas, which I don't know what the hell that is, but Salinas is $55.37. So you can't just go by that $47, that is the average. However, the most expensive areas, that you got to focus on that because there's a lot of jobs in this area. Now we're looking at the tech bubble, right? So you see how the tech bubble has priced people out in the Bay? If any of you live in the Bay, you know what I'm talking about. The Bay. That's California, 2024. The next one that we're going to look at, which is the second highest this year, is Massachusetts. Massachusetts is number 2 as the highest. I live here. I agree with everything that's said on this screenshot. In Massachusetts, you need to make $44.84 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom. However, once again, let's look at the most expensive areas. Boston, Cambridge, and Quincy, you need to make $54.37 an hour. The reality is, folks, that's where most of the jobs are. That is why there's so much traffic going into Boston. Nantucket County, $48.58. Easton, Raynham, you need to make $48. Dukes County, $41. And Barnstable Town, $40. Most people live in the Boston, Cambridge, Quincy area. So what happens, folks, is you have these cities where most of the jobs, let's not say all, most of the jobs are concentrated in a dense area, and people want to live closer to their work. The rent is going to increase because the demand is high. But on top of that, real estate developers have bought so many of these apartment buildings and they have increased the rent. And if you don't have rent stability, or if you don't have rent control, they can run amok. I told you, it's insane. If you didn't get out during the pandemic, it's kind of hard to get out. That's Massachusetts, number 2. Number 3 is New York. Yes, Massachusetts is more expensive than New York now. In New York, you need to make $44.77 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental. New York, the state becomes expensive as a whole. They get this per hour rate because of New York City. If you were to remove New York City from New York State, this would drop significantly. If we look at the most expensive areas, I think you all know, New York, $52.92 you need to make. Nassau, Suffolk, $48.23 an hour. Westchester County statutory exception area, $45.23 an hour. Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, Middletown, $35.10 an hour. Kingston, $32.73 an hour. That's New York, the state. They are number 3. Now, those are the top 3. And I threw one in because I've been watching this one for quite some time. And I think if any of you are from this state, you already know this is happening. But we need to keep an eye on Florida. This is Ron DeSantis' state. Florida is a red state. I'm telling you, it's not just the states that are blue. Because Florida is ranked number 10. This used to be the place that a lot of people moved to. New Yorkers, Bostonians would move to Florida because it was cheaper to live there and they don't have to deal with the property taxes. But that is changing. In Florida, you need to make $35.24 per hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental. And remember, fam, this refers to rentals, not buying a house. The most expensive areas, Miami Beach, Kendall, you need to make $44.69 an hour. West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, you need to make $42.81 an hour. Monroe County, $41.13 an hour. Fort Lauderdale, $40.42. Orlando, Kissimmee, Sanford, $35.71 an hour. And Orlando is probably on that list because of Disney World. So that's right, Hector. Hector said Florida is getting expensive. You got that right. So does everyone see how this is changing over time? So what this shows you is that the solution is not to move somewhere else, because once more people start to do that, that state will also become expensive because the demand is increasing. This is how this is happening. And then we're going to look at one that is the cheapest, and that is Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is number 52. In Puerto Rico, you need to make $11.58 an hour. Even in Puerto Rico, you need to make more than the federal minimum wage. Most expensive areas in Puerto Rico: San Juan, $12.85 an hour. Farado, $11.85 an hour. Mayaguez, $10.23. Barranquitas, $10.12, and Ponce, $9.40 an hour for 2-bedroom rentals. That is Puerto Rico. Someone was asking what was number 4. Number 4 was Washington State was 5th. I thought it was. Sorry, guys. I thought I had it written down. Damn you, Connecticut, you always in the way. Whether I'm trying to go to New York or get back home, even on this map, move. Sorry, guys. I have a bone to pick. I have a bone to pick with Connecticut, among other things. 4th was, why did I forget? Was it Hawaii? Hawaii, yeah. 4th was Hawaii. You need to make $44.60 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental in Hawaii. Oh my God. So yes. Now we're going to show you something else, because if we look at 2024 and we compare it to 2023, you will see there has been an increase. 2023, when we looked at the most expensive jurisdictions, and you can see here, sorry guys, it's tiny. So when I scoot it over, Santa Cruz was the most expensive metropolitan area in the US. You needed to make at least $63, right? San Francisco, 61, San Jose, Sunnyvale, 56, Salinas, 51, Santa Maria, Santa Barbara, 50, and you can go on. And then there's Boston, Cambridge there. But now, when you look at the most expensive jurisdictions for 2024, what you'll see, well, I'm trying to just scoot this over a little bit. When it comes to Santa Cruz, oh, I do have to shrink it smaller. I'm sorry, guys. Santa Cruz is now $77. So we went from 2023 Santa Cruz $63 to 2024 Santa Cruz $77.96 an hour. So as I've been trying to explain, it is continuing to increase. It is not decreasing. It is also not remaining idle. So if this is you and you live in any one of these areas, for those of you just joining, this is the salary that you need to make to have a comfortable living in your state. And I hope more people discuss this. I hope more people talk about this on their show, just because I'm sorry, but the Biden administration needs to be called out about the economy. And no, it didn't start under Joe Biden, but it has continued to increase over the years. I don't even think we ever fully recovered from the '08 housing crisis. I don't care what some of these economic peeps tell you. I never believed we fully recovered from that. And here we are now. So I'm going to make a prediction. Based on what I've seen from this report, I'm willing to predict that, say, in the next 10 years, might be sooner than that, but I'm going to be more adventurous. The only way that this is going to change is that you have to break it. And I don't think that this is going to break until the system tanks. What that means is, I think that all of this is going to have to bottom out before people come forward and make strong, serious demands and say, F that, we're breaking the system. I think we're going to have to hit rock bottom before that happens. Now, I don't want you to be down and out, because I do have another prediction about this. Who can break this? I think we really need to pay attention on what's happening with younger millennials and Gen Z. I think that they are going to be the ones to break this system. How are they going to do that? I predict within the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to see more Americans become expats. I think that more Americans, particularly those generations, especially if they don't have kids and they're single, I think you're going to see more people leave the United States and live in other countries that have more benefits and that are more affordable to live. Whether that's Singapore, whether it's Denmark, whether it's Japan, whether it's China. It has been happening for years, but I think it is going to drastically increase. I think you're going to see a lot of these younger people that are graduating from college choosing to leave the United States and to live abroad because they can afford to live there and they don't want to end up in debt. I also think part of this is going to have to do with the job market. As I predict going forward, a lot of these fields that these kids are in right now, by the time they graduate, these jobs will not be plentiful. That happened to my generation. That happened to, I think Gen X too. Some of that happened to you, but that happened to my generation, the millennial generation. If they can't get the jobs that they need to pay the rent, they are going to go somewhere else. And I think it will be only then that the housing bubble will find a way to fix itself, because as long as people are paying it, it's not going to change. And I want to say this again, folks, as long as people are willing to pay $3,000 or $4,000 a month for an apartment, the housing system is not going to change. If you stop paying it, that is how it's going to have to tank. That sucks. It's sad. But the reality is, this is why gentrification has been able to take hold the way that it has. As long as you have people that are willing to pay $4,000 for an apartment in Harvard Square, the landlords are never going to decrease the rent. When I think about what's happening globally, what's happening with BRICS, all of these other countries signing up to join BRICS or applying to join BRICS and try to create a multipolar world, those are the countries that I think some of the younger people are going to be moving to. The Brazils, Russia, India, China. Some people already moved there. But my prediction, if that this continues the way that it is, this is all going to bottom out. We cannot continue to have the housing prices continue to increase and the rent continue to increase while the pay and the salary is still relatively low for a lot of working class people. This system will not last. It's just a matter of when it is going to break. So we will look forward to the younger people because I think they're really going to be the ones to disrupt it, especially if they don't have kids, they don't have a family, they don't have as much to lose. It will get worse before it gets better. So when all the people who say pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, the bootstrap people, you no longer have boots and straps, fam. And if you didn't come from wealth, it could be coming your way too. None of us have a job that is promised tomorrow unless you're a Supreme Court judge, unless you're SCOTUS. But none of us have a job that is promised tomorrow, whether you signed a contract or not. So when I look at the way that the youth, they're out there in the streets and they're pressing back and they're like, hell no, man, we're not going to take this. That is why my hope lies in them, that they will be the ones that say, F this, fam. Why do you think there's a whole, what is it? The minimalist movement, that whole wave that started because young people don't want to pay for things they don't need anymore because most of their money is going to rent. But once we have a set of hardcore demands, and once people are willing to get out in the streets over it, which is not always easy to do because people working, let's keep it real. We can get there. But I think the younger people, particularly those that are college students or those that just graduated from college, they have a lot more time to get out in the streets than those of us that work do. So I think it's going to come from them. I really do.